Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we are reviewing Malcolm in the Middle, Life's Still Unfair, the reboot of Malcolm in the Middle. So let's get started. Hello everyone, welcome back to the Media Coven. I'm just doing a small, quick review on this show because I was a big fan of it when when it first came out. I was one of the people that I watched it when I was little, and when I heard that it was doing a reboot, I was excited about it. There's been a lot of reboots. I think so many shows from a certain time have been rebooted. Some I've liked, some not really. This one I actually enjoyed. I know that online it seems like it's getting a lot of bad reviews. I don't like the things that people are complaining about. To me, did not affect the story. I like that they didn't really ruin any of the characters. It was still like a good show. And something funny was that before they even announced this reboot, so maybe like a month before I heard that there was going to be a reboot and it was going to come out, I actually had watched the whole series again. And I remember, you know how sometimes there's shows that you haven't seen in a long time, and when you watch it, it just gives you that feeling of like your childhood or nostalgia, and I just wanted to watch it again. There's a lot of new TV shows that I should be watching, but of course I went back and watched one that I watched many times before. And I watched it, I finished it, and then literally like a month afterwards they said there's going to be a reboot and it's actually going to be released in a couple weeks. So I was excited that I've watched the whole season and I was ready for the reboot. And when the episodes finally dropped, I think there were 4 or 5 episodes, and I was happy that they all come out. I think they all came out at once because by the time I looked on, I think it was on Disney Plus, they were already there. So actually, I decided to just watch the whole show in one sitting. I think the episodes were like 30 minutes long. So if there were 5 episodes, it was like 2.5 hours. So it was like it's like the length of a movie, so it's not too bad. And I remember when I watched it, I was happy with it. I wish that the actor that played Dewey had been on it because it would have been cool. But at the end of the day, I couldn't tell if it was him or not him because it kind of looked like him, the actor that played Dewey in the reboot. And like I said, it was a fun story. It was just like if it was one episode of Malcolm in the Middle and they stretched it out for us. And I like seeing where the characters are and everything. Something that I thought about the show when I watched it is I wonder they're doing a reboot, but from the perspective of the Malcolm's daughter, because that's how it seemed that it could be. I don't know, maybe. Because the way they set up those episodes made it almost look like it could continue from the perspective of her. And if you haven't seen it, I guess, spoiler alert, Malcolm has a daughter. And if you did see it, tell me what you thought about it. And then if we start with the characters, not all the characters from the season appeared, but I would say the majority of them did. The one I really wanted to see again was the one that plays Cynthia. And she's played, I have it right here, by Tanya Raymonds. I kind of wish I would have seen her because I think she was a big part of the Crow Boys crew. So I wish I would have seen her. And I think she's the only one out of the main characters that didn't make an appearance. But a lot of characters appeared in The Last Dance. For some reason, they just put them in. And you know, I was happy that they were all there. And the whole story is about the fact that Lois and Hal are married. They're celebrating a big anniversary because they've been married a long time. And we're seeing them plan like a big party. But you know how Hal is always the one who celebrates like with big stuff for the anniversaries. This time, Lois said, I'm going to do it. You can do whatever you want before, but not during the day because I have it planned. And you can see right away that Hal's doing all these crazy things. I'm actually happy that the actor that plays Hal was able to fall back into that character really quickly because, you know, he was really a funny person. And then we see them together. They're still in love with each other. They now have, because I remember when the show ended, it ended when they had Jamie, as a little toddler, and then she finds out she's pregnant. So in this show, we see that they had a daughter, and she is non-binary, and I think maybe that's one of the things people didn't like. But like I said, it didn't really make any difference for me. Like, to me, I didn't see it as anything but a show trying to keep up with what's going on right now. If she was or wasn't, it didn't add or subtract from the story, because the story was about the family. That's, if you're paying attention to small details like that, then you weren't really watching the show, because the show Malcolm in the Middle is about how this family is really crazy, but at the end of the day, they still love each other. And when we see them, we have Hal and Lois, and we have the daughter. I forgot her name, sorry. And then we see Francis, the oldest son, and he still is with Piama. And they are apparently living in the garage, but I think they weren't living there permanently. I think he's visiting for the party, and they were staying in the garage. And apparently they've been trying to have a baby, and they haven't been able to. And during all this mess that's going on, that's when he discovers that she is pregnant, and he's excited. And then Reese, he's still a troublemaker apparently. He's still doing stuff that he shouldn't be doing. Something that I thought was funny about him was that maybe I thought they were going to make it that he's like a cook, or maybe he has like one of those taco stands, or like somewhere cooking. I went, he has to mature by now, but apparently he didn't. And I think it's very true. I myself know people that the same way they were when they're younger, they're still like that when they're older with kids. So it's possible that Reese stay like that. We do hear that he's been married a couple times maybe, and that he's divorced, and he doesn't have children, and apparently he has a really famous either YouTube page or something where he videotapes his dad doing all these funny things. And that's one of the things that's happened in the story, where the dad is still the same funny person, where every time he fixes something, he always makes it worse. And apparently Reese has been videotaping him, putting on the page, because every time he messes up, it's funny, and a lot of people like that. That's like that. And then when Hal finds out that Reese isn't coming over, because in the story, Reese tells his dad, "I love you because you're my tool." And it's like this funny scene, because it's really beautiful and everything. And then at the end, when you find out what Reese is actually doing, you realize that he's not really being nice about it. And then when Hal finds out about it, he kind of falls into a small depression. And then who else do we have? Oh, Malcolm. So then we find out that Malcolm, he didn't end up becoming president, which I guess it would have been weird to make him president for the reboot. But he is a very successful person. He has a really good job, apparently. And we find out that he either had a wife or a girlfriend, and they had a baby. That's why he has a daughter. I think the daughter's like in high school or middle school. And then we find out that apparently she's out of the picture, so he's been raising her for years. And then when I heard that, I said, oh, so Malcolm has a daughter. That means that Lois is Cal, our grandparents. Then we find out that Malcolm has been keeping his daughter from his family all this time, like years. So if she's like in high school, maybe 14, 15 years, and they don't know that they have a granddaughter, and the granddaughter doesn't know that she has uncles and grandparents. And then we also have, and the whole story with him hiding that side of the family is also the other conflict in the story. And then we also have Jamie. I think Jamie is being played by a different actor. It's not the same one from the actual show, but you wouldn't tell because he was a toddler, so it doesn't matter. Well, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to say it doesn't matter. And apparently he is in military school because he's following in the footsteps of his brothers of being a troublemaker. And then during the whole story, we're seeing Lois trying to plan the party, and Hal trying to compose himself, and Malcolm trying to hide that side of the family from this side of the family. And he has a girlfriend that he wants to introduce to his daughter. And then at the same day where they were all going to introduce each other, they literally all meet. So he's trying to make sure that his new girlfriend and his daughter get along. And who shows up? Hal and Lois. And then when they walk in, Malcolm just runs out of the house, like literally runs out, leaves everyone there. And that's when everybody finds out that Malcolm has a daughter, that they're grandparents, that he's been keeping everything from everyone. And I think if you all watched the show Malcolm in the Middle, Malcolm was that type of person, which is very weird because he always felt like he was an outsider from the family. He thought maybe he was better than them, but at the same time, when you watch the show and everything, you realize he's actually exactly like them. Like they all fit perfectly together. And him hiding his daughter and his side of the from his family like that, it was really like devastating to Lois and everybody because I'm like, why are you doing that? And that's happened a couple times during the series where he does something and the family look at him like, oh, so you think you're better than us? And in the end, the whole story, once we hear the conflict and everything, it starts getting crazier. But then the granddaughter, Malcolm's daughter, he wants to get to know the family, even if they're a little bit crazy. And they end up getting fine, or getting along great and everything. And the whole show ends with the big party, the anniversary. Malcolm was thinking to go, but the girlfriend and the daughter knocked him out, like literally knocked him out, stuck him in the car, and they took him to the party. And then they had the big confrontation, and Malcolm was trying to avoid his mom because he didn't want to deal with her getting mad or telling him stuff. But she said, "We have to talk about it. You're gonna have to deal with what I say." And then they had this really nice conversation in the men's bathroom. While what's his name, Greg, was in the bathroom, like stinking up the place. And Malcolm's like, "I don't want to do it here." But Lois says, "We're doing it here because you keep running away." And then they have this talk, and this is like what I said, that if you focus about the small things about the show, you're not paying attention to what the show's about. The show was about family, is about family. We hear them talking it out. Why did you do this? He tells her why. It's pretty much the same things he's gone through his whole life. Malcolm always has this thing where, because he's really smart, he feels he has to perform a certain way to please his mom and everybody in the family. So some of the reasons why he was hiding that side of his life was because he didn't really like the pressure that his mom was giving him. But then his mom talks to him and they have this really nice conversation, and it ends where everybody gets along and just says, let's start from here. And it's very weird, but at the same time, since I just finished watching the show, it did feel very much like episodes that they would have been added to the original season. And then, of course, during the big party, they're dancing, having a good time. We start seeing other characters. I think which other characters were there? Oh, well, like the grandmother, Ida, she passed away, so they show that. But we see Greg, we see Lloyd, some of the Crab kids. Who else do we see? We also see Stevie Canard, and that's another character that people were apparently upset with because when we see him, he is in a relationship with a man and they have a baby. And a lot of people apparently freaked out about that. They didn't want that. Again, I don't know why, because when you look at the story, it did not add or take away anything from the story. If you're saying, well, Stevie was never gay in the show, why is he gay now? He was young. He was a teenager when we saw him, and I think he was about to go to college. He could have been. You don't know. And again, it doesn't take or add anything to the story, so I don't understand why people got upset. I remember when I started watching the show, I was afraid that they were gonna do this thing where they changed the show so much. Like, if I had to talk about a movie they ruined, I'm gonna bring back another movie. When they did the movie The Craft Legacy, which wasn't a reboot, it was the continuing of The Craft. That movie was so, like the term people use, woke, that it ruined it. And I never understood why a movie that was kind of already woke in its own sense, because it was these four women who were powerful, who were like taking over the world almost. Why did it need to be woke if it was already woke? It's the same thing with like the show Sex and the City when they did Just Like That. I could make a whole video about what I thought about Just Like That. I don't understand why that show needed to be woke and progressive when that show on itself was already that. Why did they need to do that? I don't understand. The only complaint that I would have about Sex in the City was that they had very, very small amount of characters that were Black, Hispanic, Asian. They could have added a little more color to that show because that show was really white. Every once in a while, we would see a Black character or something, but it was very much like a little bit, a little bit. It wasn't enough. The only thing they needed was adding more race. And if you think about it, because of the time that show was on, it made sense that all the characters were in that little world because that's how the world because that's how the world was. So I'm like, okay, I'm fine with it. But it was really progressive to begin with. It didn't need to have more stuff added to it. I think Just Like That was ruined a little bit. Like I said, I could probably make a whole video just discussing that because I have a lot to say about that. And when Malcolm in the Middle did the reboot, I was afraid they were going to do that. And they did it a little bit, but I feel like the things they added, like the daughter that's non-binary, I can believe that because Lois and Hal aren't really prejudiced in any way. So I think it would have made sense that they had a daughter like that and they were still love her and respect her. And I like how the show starts where they're like, well, we're trying to remember what pronoun you want us to call you. Because I think that's how they would take it. That's how a normal family that loves their children would take when somebody says, I am no longer the identity that you think I am. I'm now this. I think that's how they would handle it. And I think the show did a good job with that. And with Stevie, I guess it's possible that he is gay and that he found this out later on in his life. And if he is or isn't, why does it matter? The show was still good. Like I said, I enjoyed the reboot a lot, so I was happy with everything. I have seen people comment some things they didn't like. I have decided not to even look at the bad comments because I enjoyed the show. If I had to review it, or I am reviewing it, I would give it 5 stars because I really enjoyed the show. I definitely remember that right after I finished it, I wanted to rewatch it right away because I liked it. I enjoyed the characters back then and now. And the only character I didn't talk about was Dewey. Dewey, the original actor, didn't want to come back. They put someone else, but like I said, this actor that came back confused me because he kind of looked like Dewey. So I said maybe it is Dewey. And during the whole show, Dewey wasn't even amongst the characters because apparently he's like a very famous musician with apparently a whole bunch of different girlfriends. And I thought that was funny that every time we saw him, he was on a laptop or he was on the phone or something. And I believed that. I was okay with that. I understood that the character didn't want to come back. And I guess a lot of actors that were really young when they're in shows, maybe they didn't want to do that. So if he didn't want to come back, it's okay. Because the original show had him and that's what we liked. And the reboot didn't need to have him if he didn't want to be on it. And I think at the end, if you really enjoyed this show, you really liked it, it still kept true to what the show was, and it was about family. And that's what they still were. They're still crazy, but they love each other. They have issues, but that's how families are. You might not like that this is going on, though that's going on, but it's gonna happen. And at the end, I really like that Hal and Lois are still like the same people that love each other no matter what, and they love their kids. They're all of their kids, even though they're crazy and they drive them crazy. But that's what the show was about. It was a family. So I definitely recommend this show. I give it 5 stars. It was a good reboot. They did a good job with the reboot. And that's all I had to say about it. I enjoyed it. If you watched it, tell me what you thought about it because I enjoyed it. So thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, and remember to keep on reading, vibe to the music, and keep your eyes on the screen. Goodbye.